Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series X-Men House of X Tri-Sentinel Build-A-Figure Wave. This is the Build-A-Figure video itself, the Theta Sentinel as it is referred to in the comic. So let's get right to it. Let's put this thing together. One of the tricky things is figuring out which leg is which, because you can't really tell by the shape of the foot is how I would usually look at it. You know, okay, well, if one's a right or left, it's a little bit harder to tell on these, but if you look, and it's going to be hard, let's see if I can get a light in there enough, but right inside that peg hole, it'll actually say which one this is. So I see an L in there. This is going to be the left leg. So let's grab this torso piece. Make sure you have the front of it, because I messed that up, not on this take, but on an earlier take, and felt really stupid. So we have the left leg. We're just going to pop that in. Goes nice and easy, and you can see this thing's going to be pretty damn tall. So we'll get the other leg, which has to be the right. Can't mess that one up. So there he is, or the Theta Sentinel, standing all tall and off to the side. What's up with that? Are these legs not the same length? I guess you have to adjust that ankle a little bit, but yeah, really tall. So then we'll get the arms. So here we have the left arm. We're just going to pop that into the torso like so. Nice and easy. No special click going on. It just fits in there, and you can force it, push it in. There we go. Now the three heads are going to be difficult. Now I did watch E. Rivera's review, and he had mentioned how it is difficult to get the heads on in there. So let's zoom in and let's see what the challenge is really going to be about on this Tri-Sentinel. So let's see here. So each one has a little ball peg there on the end, as you can see. Now the tricky thing is the heads really can only swivel. So this ball joint in there, you're not going to actually get a whole lot of motion going on in there, as you can see. So pretty much just going to swivel. So obviously the head has to come forward like so, and it's not really going to matter where you put them, because they are all the exact same. So they have the same curve to the neck piece. None of them are different. They are all the same, so it doesn't really matter. So let's go with this one. We'll just start all the way from the left. Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be tricky to pop in there, because the way that you can see how the neck is rigid. So trying to grip that with your fingers is actually a little painful. I mean, you try and hold it tightly so you could force it in, and those ridges really kind of cut into the finger. So it is going to be a little tricky, because it's hard to get a good grip the way it's positioned to be able to really pop this into that peg hole nice and easy. So I may have to do that off camera, because that is tricky as hell. Yeah, no, can't do it on camera, so stay tuned. Okay, so I got one of these heads on there, and holy hell, was that a pain in the ass to do, because that ball peg does not easily go into those ports, like at all. So it's tricky as shit. So I kind of force it like so, just hold on to the head and really push down into it, and hopefully it holds. A lot of times I felt like I was getting it in there, and it just really didn't stay. But I'm going to try and demonstrate for you guys exactly how I did it. So you just kind of hold it in position, and then from the head push into it. Now the tricky part is it kind of bends the neck portion a little bit, but man, there's just no good way to get a grip on it, and then it comes out so easily. So you really have to just kind of play around with it a couple of times and hope it just kind of stays. But it, you know, when it's in position, it's in there, but it doesn't hold real tight either. So again, you got to be real careful with it, and kind of how you're going to be positioning the heads and everything. So it's a little tricky. So I'm going to get this last one off camera, and then we'll get to the figure. Okay, so finally I got the three damn heads on there. And again, it's just really tricky, because you would think the way the neck is and how the heads are on a ball peg that you could really move that head all around and all over the place, when really it's actually pretty limited, unfortunately. So you can't just do like all kind. Oh, son of a bitch, popped one off. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get back on. So anyway, so talking about this, the way the head is on the ball peg, so like you don't get a whole lot of tilt going on in there, so you're not able to get it into a whole lot of different positions. Like you can't tilt it any more forward than that. So, you know, thinking that you could put this on there and then move the head around, you can't. So if you pop this into the port, you know, like so, you can't actually get that head to look straight out, which is extremely unfortunate. But that's kind of the way it is. I wish you could, but you really can't. So let me get this back on there, and then we will take a look at the figure. Okay, so putting this damn head back on, I popped this one off. So now I gotta fight to get this one back on there while trying not to pop off any of these other two. Stand by. Okay, so here is the Tri-Sentinel Build-A-Figure in all its glory. And holy hell, I've had some problems with Build-A-Figures before. But it's never usually the heads that are the problem with the Build-A-Figure. Usually maybe the legs are a pain in the ass or something like that. But this one, it's those heads. And they're just tricky because you just don't get full range of motion out of them. But it is a very cool and interesting looking Build-A-Figure. But there are some challenges that are going to come along with it. You know, putting it together, one thing. But getting it to be able to do certain types of poses and stands, it might be a little bit difficult. Hopefully yours doesn't have any loose joints either, because I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem. It's a little top heavy, as you could really imagine. So it's going to be tough. Like if it starts to lean in any way, you know, obviously it's really going to kind of fall down. So you got to really make sure that it's balanced well before you walk away from it. So that can get a little bit tricky. Now, before I really move on into the rest of the review, one thing that I want to do and kind of get out of the way is I think there's probably been a lot of comparisons on this Build-A-Figure to one of the Spider-Man waves, the SPDR, you know, Penny Parker. What's her last name? Parker? I can't remember. I did read that comic. Actually, I still have it. But I believe it's Penny Parker. But anyway, the robot, kind of like Into the Spider-Verse, although they really changed the way it looked in the animated movie, is how this Build-A-Figure kind of compares to that one. One thing I forgot is how big this Build-A-Figure actually is. So looking at the two robots side by side, if I can get him to stand without falling over, shit. So you can see that he is actually a lot bulkier and taller than the THETA Sentinel. So I know they have, you know, long legs, long arms, and skinny compared to kind of the body and stuff. But there is a big size difference, and there is a big difference kind of in the designs. But I know, again, there was kind of some of those comparisons when they were kind of first announced. So there is that side by side, so you guys know. But let's get in and zoom in close to look at all the features of the Tri-Sentinel. Okay, so we're zoomed in on the Tri-Sentinel Build-A-Figure, and you can see the three heads are the same, and they do look pretty good. One thing, surprisingly, on my heads at least, I don't get a lot of that marbleization kind of in the plastic that you tend to see with kind of the more metallic and brighter colors. I get a lot of that going on in the arms, as you can kind of see there. A lot of the marbleization there in the forearms, the upper arms as well. A little bit in the torso as well. You can really see it right there. But luckily in the heads, it don't really seem too much of that problem going on. But in the body itself, you know, I do even kind of this hip portion here a little bit as well. But we do get these nice bright metallic colors. So we kind of have this purple color, and we get a little bit of a pink on some of these areas in here. We get this nice gunmetal gray going on there inside the shoulder and that shoulder ball. We get it the same right here for the elbow. It is the same for the hands, as well as some of the leg portions and some of that torso portion as well. But we do get this nice silver there in the front. Also, it kind of accents here on the forearms and the wrists, as well as the face, and a little bit on the shoulders as well. The big shoulder pads, and then on the legs and on the feet. Now the feet is definitely a tricky one. My left ankle, excuse me, is a little loose. It's not so much a problem, but that's also going to go a long way in balancing this thing, because again, it's so top heavy compared. But don't get me wrong, it's not a heavy figure. It's just, you know, so unbalanced on the top versus the skinny legs towards the bottom. So be aware of that. We get pinless joints because it is a single jointed elbow, but the knee is a double elbow, but it is pinless, so no pins at the knees. and we'll get into that when we go over the articulation. But good coloring on there. It's minimal paint. A lot of it is actually going to be in the plastic, but the paint that is applied on my figure in particular, I have zero paint issues, so that's always a plus whenever we get, you know, these mass-produced figures with no paint issues. That's not necessarily what Hasbro is known for, so maybe I got lucky, but I am happy to report that on my figure, no paint issues. So now let's zoom out and go over his articulation. Okay, so I had kind of already talked about the articulation in the head and the necks. So it is tricky. So that ball joint there into the torso piece, you can move that, but again, the head only gets so much movement. So I can't get that head to with the chin straight down even in that position. So you have to be careful. You get some swivel, so you can get one to turn like that, and you can get the other one to then turn like that also, and you have the ones looking straight out. But that's really all that you're gonna get, and you're not really gonna get him to look up so much. You can get some motion going on there, and then looking down is a little bit of a challenge as well. So it's cool, but again, it's pretty limited in what you can actually do with these heads. I wish we could have a little bit more, but there's only some. So like looking at this middle head, you can really only get it to go down that much and then go up that much. So again, very limited. The shoulders, you can get the full rotation as long as you kind of work around these big ass shoulder pads. There is no butterfly joint. You can get the arm to go up out only that far, unfortunately. So that is a little bit of a challenge. You have a swivel at the elbow, and again, it is a single jointed elbow, but it gives you some great bend, so you can get over 90 degrees that way. You can also hyper extend and go a little bit back the other way as well. Wrist swivel, and they do hinge. It is the same on both of them. There is a swivel at the upper diaphragm. There is not really a whole lot of pivot, so you can kind of pivot a little bit, but it won't even really kind of stay in position, so just be aware of that. You can get the legs to go out that far apart. You can kick forward really, really high, because you can also do a full rotation on that leg, so that is pretty cool. We have the upper thigh cut, because that is where the leg comes together. Double jointed knee, which gives you that much bend there. Again, it is a pinless knee on a pretty thin, but it doesn't feel gummy in any way, so it actually feels pretty sturdy, so I'm not too concerned about that. There is no calf swivel. Foot hinges all the way down, and we get some hinge up, not a whole lot, but ankle pivot and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So decent articulation. The tricky thing is just going to get this guy to balance, so be careful on the ankles and the legs, and just make sure to kind of balance him the best you can to get it to stand, which I'm having a little bit of a problem with right now. So you got to be careful with that. So let's see how he compares to some other Sentinels. Okay, so here we have a group of Sentinels, and this took me like 10 minutes to set up because none of these damn figures wanted to stand up. So, you know, careful when you're setting up the Tri-Sentinel, you bump into your table or whatever you're setting it on, the damn thing's gonna fall down. So that's a pain in the ass. I really like the way it looks, but damn it, is it not a great functioning figure, because it's just so hard to balance and he wants to fall over so easily. But anyway, it's crazy that we go from the skinny ass Sentinel and we have this big ass Nimrod. But pretty cool that we're getting all these different Sentinels. So when Bastion comes, the Sentinel Prime, and then the female Sentinel Prime figure, that's going to come with the HasLab Sentinel. So we will have all kinds of Sentinels, so that's going to be pretty awesome when all of that kind of comes about. I'm really looking forward to that. But here we have, again, all these different Sentinels. They are all, in fact, part of the House of X storyline, and then the mother mold, I think it's called, that creates master molds, which then creates Sentinels. So all pretty crazy stuff from the YouTube videos that I had watched. But there are our Sentinels together. Now let's see the whole wave of the House of X Tri-Sentinel Build-A-Figure together. Okay, so here is the whole wave together, and I was pretty excited for this wave ahead of time, because I thought there were some interesting things going on with it. Having it in hand, I'm still happy with them, but they're still not the greatest, and some of that's going to boil down to character selection. Cyclops again, Wolverine again, Jean Grey again, Magneto again, Charles Xavier kind of again, just not a great figure itself. The head sculpt is cool, both the head sculpts are cool. The the one, the unhelmeted no cerebro head with the effect piece, that is really cool. The Moira figure, the head sculpts look great aside from the lipstick and molded non-smile that's going on there. That's really throwing it off when you really look at it close. But the figure is cool. The awesome concept of doing the lab coat version and not the two head sculpts again from far away look really good. We have those issues going on. The updated Bucky cap to Cyclops is really cool. Wolverine is just Wolverine. Omega Sentinel is awesome. Highly recommend this figure. This is absolutely the highlight and standout of the wave for me that I got a second one. This is a really nice figure. Magneto kind of surprised me a little bit. I like the figure. Not my favorite Magneto, but definitely kind of a highlight in this wave. Cyclops, again, was a big surprise. The Tri-Sentinel Build-A-Figure, I really liked the way it looked, initially coming into it. But having the kind of the problems, with the heads kind of easily popping off and then being a pain in the ass to put back on. The balancing issue of trying to get it to stand and not knocking it over. Some of those frustrations just kind of builds up and it's like, ugh, why? Still a good looking Build-A-Figure, not my favorite Build-A-Figure ever, but still a pretty cool one. So if I were to rank the wave and how I would do it, and again, I typically don't include the Build-A-Figure, so I would say my number one is going to be the Omega Sentinel. My number two is surprisingly the Cyclops, because it just kind of, the updated Bucky cap really surprised me, and you know what? I dig it. I like it. Magneto would be my number three. My number four, I would say, is going to be Moira. My number five would be Wolverine, even though it's the same damn Wolverine kind of over and over again. Those new claws are absolutely amazing, and I hope that on every future Wolverine figure we get these claws in particular. Next, I would actually say Marvel Girl, which would be my number six. And then last would actually be the Charles Xavier, because the Pizza Spidey mold, at the time when it first came out, that was cool. Now I really just kind of don't like it. It's pretty limited on what it can actually do, and there's just no design to this figure when he should have something a little bit. All they had to do is put like even just like a black line, a couple of black lines on there, and it would have gone a long way, because the figure itself isn't quite all black. It would have been subtle enough to stand out and then accurate enough to the comics, but unfortunately we didn't get that treatment. So that's why Charles Xavier is down on the bottom of my list. The head sculpt with the effect piece just is not enough to bring it up. For me, anyway, if I included the Build-A-Figure, I would probably make him number three behind Omega Sentinel and Cyclops, and then the Theta Sentinel in front of Magneto. You guys let me know down in the comments below. How would you rank the wave? What are your favorite figures from this wave? Which one are the disappointments for you? What do you think of the updated Bucky cap body mold on those arms and those legs and the movement there? Let me know all down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching, and especially in this video with all my bitching and complaining with that damn Build-A-Figure. I really appreciate it, so thank you guys.